next, the dreamer. We have someone who actually dreamed and came up with the idea, and we want to make sure that we hear from him. So at this moment, Mr. Dan Bickerstaff, the architect of the African American Cultural Gardens.
I'll try to be brief, and thank you, Councilman. You know, you pretty much explained it. I really have very little to share, but you know, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity for the most part. Someone asked me if I was very proud of what's been done from a design standpoint, and I am, but again, I'm just more grateful to be part of a team, because that's what it took. It wasn't just me, myself, as the architect, but it's a team of politicians and our honorable mayor and other leaders in the community that helped financially to get this built. You know, I want to share a little bit about the design. You know, the overall concept is about expressing our heritage from the standpoint of our past, our present, and our future. And those two other aspects, the subsequent design will be completed, hopefully in my lifetime. So I hope that our team galvanizes and get ready for additional fundraising to make that happen. But standing before you, as Councilman mentioned, we have not only the corridor, the doorway of no return, but we have the corridors of no return beyond. And this entire pavilion is called the Past Pavilion. And I wanted to focus on that because very little attention, from my understanding, my history has been paid to those enslaved Africans that lost their lives and struggled to make it here in order for us to have success today. Can you hear me okay now? Great. So the idea of creating the corridors of no return was to emulate the tension and the passion in the design. The corridors are angles so that as you move through them, you get that sense of compression and tension, just as our ancestors must have experienced as they moved from the outer pavilions of the slave castles through the corridors to the lower dungeons before they actually reached the doorway of no return. What's important about moving forward with the design is that this should be an operable fountain, an infinity fountain, where the water simply gets pumped to the top of the fountain and cascade over, and then proceeds down the hill to the present pavilion. So we're very excited about that component of the design. But I must not fail to mention that we use blue glass tile to emulate the Atlantic Ocean and the sense of water, and it also takes place along the surface of the ground, the walking plane, because one thing that I discovered doing my research is that in the dungeons of the castles where hundreds of individuals were housed for God only knows how long, they utilized that same space they were housed in to relieve themselves. And there was a trench down the middle of one of the dungeons of the castles. And when I found out what that trench was, it really struck me, because in our modern society, in my office, I have an exhaust fan and all kind of new technology in my bathroom. So I can imagine what hundreds of people must have experienced in that environment. Just that subtle detail was pretty profound to me. So I wanted to include that glass treatment along the center of the floor to just pay homage to those that were captured and had to go through that experience. But to do it in such an elegant way that when you see the glass, you really don't have any idea of the harrowing experience that we must have experienced in that environment. So the actual colors I was expressing to another individual earlier were taken from my understanding of Timbuktu, the civilizations prior to the slave trade. Because again, we have societies, we had very strong civilizations and communities in Africa that were successful. So I wanted to bring those materials and those colors into this design. And that's where the palette of colors has come from. You know, I can go on and on about the concept and materials and why certain pavers are smoother than certain other pavers to emulate the texture differences and the differences of all of our backgrounds and hues and colors. But I'll be here all day doing that. But it was a joyous opportunity to design this project. It was painful at times. I would sit at my computer just thinking about what our ancestors went through. But to overcome that pain, I just kept thinking about what it would be like on a day like today. to be out in the sun to really reflect on what this entire team has done to bring this to fruition. And finally, like the mayor mentioned about the contractors, I like to call the contractors artisans because they had to read our drawings, our engineered and architectural blueprints, and make sure that all the details were depicted in the final outcome. You know, this particular stone relative to the other stones. So they didn't look at this project as simply a building project or a construction site. All the guys that I worked with were very respectful of the design process, and they tried to incorporate all of the ideas as they were envisioned. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'll just turn it over back to Carl.